Hello, everybody, and welcome again to the Children's Resource Center Library. We are sure glad you decided to join us for today's story time, and we hope everyone is having a great summer and enjoying all the programming here at nolalibrary.org. Today's story is one of my favorites because it stars my very good friend Peter Rabbit. Come on out, Peter, and say hi.
Hello.
Peter, can you tell us what this story is about?
This story is called The Tale of Peter Rabbit, and it's about an adventure I had one day up at Mr. McGregor's farm.
Well, that sounds very exciting. Let's go ahead and watch.
Once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits, and their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. They lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the roots of a very big oak tree. "Now, my dears," said old Miss Rabbit one morning, "you may go out into the field or down the lane, but don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Your father had an accident there, and he was put into a pie by Miss McGregor. Now run along and don't get into any mischief. I'm going out." Then old Miss Rabbit took a basket and her umbrella and went through the woods to the baker's. She bought a loaf of brown bread and 5 currant buns. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blackberries. But Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight away to Mr. McGregor's garden and squeezed under the gate. He first ate some lettuce and some French beans, and then he ate some radishes. And then, feeling rather sick, he went to look for some parsley. But around the end of the cucumber frame, who should he meet but Mr. McGregor? Mr. McGregor was on his hands and knees planting young cabbages, but he jumped up and ran after Peter, waving a rake and calling out, "Stop, thief!" Peter was dreadfully frightened, and he rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten the way back to the gate. He lost one of his shoes among the cabbages, and the other shoe amongst the potatoes. After losing them, he ran on all 4s and went faster, so that I think he might have gotten away altogether if he had not unfortunately run into the gooseberry net and gotten caught by a large button on his jacket. Peter gave himself up for lost and shed big tears, but his sobs were overheard by some friendly sparrows, who flew to him in great excitement and implored him to exert himself. Mr. McGregor came up with a sieve, which he intended to pop on top of Peter. But Peter wriggled out just in time, leaving his jacket behind, and rushed into the tool shed and jumped into a can. It would have been a beautiful thing to hide in if it had not had so much water in it. Mr. McGregor was quite sure that Peter was somewhere in the tool shed, perhaps hiding underneath the flower pot. He began to turn them over carefully, looking underneath each. Presently, Peter sneezed. "Achoo!" Mr. McGregor was after him in no time and tried to put his foot upon Peter, who jumped up out of the window, upsetting 3 plants. The window was too small for Mr. McGregor, and he was tired of chasing Peter. He went back to his work. Peter sat down to rest. He was out of breath and trembling with fright. He had not the slightest idea which way to go. After a time, he he began to wander about, going lippity-lippity very slowly, and looking around. He found a door in a wall, but it was locked, and there was no room for a fat little rabbit to squeeze underneath. An old mouse was running in and out over the stone doorstep, carrying peas and beans for her family in the wood. Peter asked her the way to the gate, but she had such a large pea in her mouth that she could not answer. She only shook her head at him. Peter began to cry. Then he tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he became more and more puzzled. Presently, he came to a pond where Mr. McGregor filled his water cans. A white cat was staring at some koi fish. She sat very, very still, but now and then the tip of her tail twitched as if it were alive. Peter thought it best to go away without speaking to her. He had heard about cats from his cousin, little Benjamin Bunny. He went back towards the tool shed, but suddenly, quite close to him, he heard the noise of a hoe. Screech, scratch, scratch, screech. Peter scampered underneath a bush, but presently, as nothing happened, he came out and climbed upon a wheelbarrow and peeped over. The first thing he saw was Mr. McGregor hoeing onions. His back was turned towards Peter, and behind him was the gate. Peter got down very quickly off the wheelbarrow and started running as fast as he could along the straight walk behind the black currant bushes. Mr. McGregor caught sight of him at the corner, but Peter didn't care. He slipped underneath the gate and was safe at last in the woods outside the garden. Mr. McGregor hung up the little jacket and shoes for the scarecrow to frighten the blackbirds. Peter never stopped running or looking behind him till he got home to the big oak tree. He was so tired that he flopped down upon the nice soft sand on the floor of the rabbit hole and shut his eyes. His mother was busy cooking. She wondered what he had done with his clothes. It was the second little jacket and pair of shoes that Peter had lost in a fortnight. I am sorry to say that Peter was not very well during the evening. His mother put him to bed and made some chamomile tea. She gave him a dose of it, 1 tablespoonful at bedtime. But Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail had bread and milk and blackberries for supper. The end.
Wow, what a great story. Peter, we hope you learned your lesson that day about going into places that you shouldn't.
Oh, I sure did. I don't think I'll be going back to the farm anytime soon. At least not until the new cabbages are coming in.
All right, Peter. Well, we hope you'll stick around for our craft time. Someone has to help us make these super cool rabbit finger puppets.
What's a puppet?
Look, just watch.
Alright guys, so for our craft today, we're going to make finger puppets. Bunny finger puppets. They're going to look like this. Alright, and what you will need to make this craft is something to draw with, a pen or pencil, glue. I have a glue stick, but you can use like liquid glue, whatever. Scissors, and 3 or 4 different construction papers. I've got pink for the ears, purple for the body, and then white and black for the eyes. But you can use whatever colors you want. So that is all you will need for this craft today. Okay, so to get started, we're going to start with our purple paper. Let's push him over to the side. What you will need to do is on this purple paper, you will need to draw 2 circles, one big and one little, and then 2 ears. So let's see, here's my small circle. And you can draw a circle as best as you can, or see if a grown-up can help you if you're having problems. And then here's my bigger circle. Or you can get something to trace a circle, like a cup lid or something like that. Okay. And then I'm going to draw the holes for my fingers. They're gonna go, there's one right here and one right here. Maybe they need to be a little bit bigger than that. We'll see. All right, and then the ears. For ears, you can draw whatever kind of bunny ears you want. I'm gonna draw mine like this. And just draw them anywhere they fit on your paper. So now we have 2 ears, the body and the head. And we have to cut everything out now. So there's the head. And the body. And there's 1 ear. And there's 2 ears. And before I forget, I need to cut out the holes for the fingers. So if you bend your circle just a little bit, you can take your scissors and kind of poke a hole in the hole. And then all right, there's 1 finger. Okay, there's 2 fingers. All right, so the next thing we'll do is make our pink for our ears and our nose. Can I see that? And to do that, we're gonna do just like we did for here. We're going to draw 2 ears and a nose on our piece of paper. But our ears need to be a little bit smaller than these ears. Something like that. And then our nose, make it come down just a little bit. All right, and we're gonna cut that out. So there's my nose and my ears, my inner ears. And if it's not perfect, it's okay. The last thing we have to make are the eyeballs, and there's a trick to the eyeballs. What you're going to do is, for both sheets of paper, if you will fold it in half and draw your circle for your eyes, 1 big circle, and then you're going to do 1 little circle on the black. Draw your circle on one side, and then cut through both sheets of paper. You'll get 2 circles that are the same size. Like that, see? And do the same thing with the black paper, only we're going to draw a smaller circle. It doesn't take a lot of black paper or white paper. Okay, then all that's left to do is glue everything together. So we don't need our scissors anymore. We're going to use our glue. So to glue everything together, I'm going to start with the head, and I'm going to put the eyes and the ears on and the nose. So what I'm going to do is take my eyeball and just put it where I want it on my bunny head. And do the same for the other eyeball. And then take your black parts of your eyes and put them in the center of the white part. So now we have our eyes on our bunny. Then we're going to do the same for our nose. And I want to put my nose right there. That's where my nose is going. And you can use your pen or a marker to draw the mouth of the bunny. What you're going to do is you're going to draw a J this way and then a J that way. And that's going to be your bunny mouth. So now that we have our eyes and nose on, we can mess with our ears. So to put the pink in our ears, put the glue on the pink. And just paste it onto the ear. Do the same for the other ear. Then put a dab of glue on the end of the ear and put it on the bunny. There's one ear. We made that ear kind of long. We might have to trim that ear. And there's two ears. There's our bunny head with his ears. The very last thing you have to do is attach the head to the body. To do that, you're just going to put a little bit of glue right here on the top of the body. And there you go. You might have to wait for it to dry a second, but you've got your bunny puppet. Yay! Oh, that's what a puppet is.
Yeah, Peter, some of the time. Anyway, thanks for joining us today, everybody. It sure was great having this time to share with you. Say goodbye, Peter.
Goodbye, Peter.